How many emails do you get a day?
50 plus, I would say.
50 plus?
Yeah.
How many of those do you enjoy reading?
Honestly, all of them. Even when there's a crisis and we need to fix something, I know it's gonna, every time just brings you a step closer to a better version of yourself and YourBI. So.
Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I'm your host, Sean Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. We have been doing this show since 2017, almost 10 years. I cannot believe how far we have come. I appreciate you guys for watching, for listening. We are grateful to this audience of owners, operators, hospitality professionals, technology enthusiasts all over the world. When I started this show, I didn't know if anyone would listen. And now we have had so many incredible guests. I have learned so much. The audience has grown. We have built a community. So wherever you are, wherever you're listening, thank you. We appreciate you. We are obsessed with what we call digital hospitality. We believe that every business needs to be building digitally first, especially brick and mortar businesses like restaurants. We also believe that every business is in the hospitality business, whether they know it or not. Really excited because today we have Alexandra Fulea, and she is the CEO and co-founder of YourBI. It is a business intelligence platform. So we're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about business intelligence. We're going to talk about actions, what owners, operators can actually do with that data. But more importantly, Alexandra, you're joining from Amsterdam, from the other side of the world. I had a deep belief when we started this show that technology was going to make the world much smaller. When I started my restaurant in 2008, it was the year after the iPhone launched. So we've really been building on Web 2.0, and now here we are with AI, and we have so many tools to make margins better. We love this business. We love taking care of people. But as we all know, it's really hard to do. Technology has made it complicated, but then there's companies like you that are trying to simplify it. So welcome to the show. I can't wait to hear more about YourBI, but more importantly, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Sean, for having me. And I'm indeed calling from Amsterdam, and it's sunny outside, and which is quite a rare occasion. So I'm very excited to get this going.
Amazing. Let's start with why. Why restaurants? Why hospitality? What's your obsession? What's your hospitality DNA?
I need to take it back then a bit.
Perfect.
So after I finished studying, I started what at the time seemed like a great idea. And I started working as a strategy consultant to help large companies to digitally transform. Mm. And back then that was pretty new. And I think about a year in, I was just wrapping up a session with a large client when a senior manager from my firm walked up to me and said, "I hope you're taking this in because it won't get any better than this." And it was something about that statement that didn't sit well with me. And maybe it was about, technology being more the end as opposed to a means to an end, something we see quite a lot with AI nowadays. Or maybe it was just something about none of us having been on the floor, the very place we're trying to digitally transform. Mm. Anyways, soon after I quit, and that's when the conversations with Jasper and Mark, my two co-founders in YourBI, started. Now, but the thing of, digitally transforming a business kind of stuck with me. And Jasper, he was the one who figured out that to transform an industry or even one business, you need to start with a solid data foundation. And Mark, he was the one who figured out that restaurants and hospitality is drowning in data, but starving for answers, basically. He worked in finance, worked with quite a lot of chains. And one day he came to us and said, I know you guys are building this data platform. And I have this client, and he's built an extraordinary concept, a great restaurant brand. And he basically single-handedly scaled it up to 10 locations, all by himself. But now things are starting to break. And my own P&L and the POS reports that he's having are just not going to cut it. And that's when it kind of started to tick for me, to come back to your question, because we did things differently. So we went to the floor and we saw restaurant operators were being handed or were being held accountable for labor cost percentages that they basically had no way of tracing back to scheduling. And so they did the only thing they could. They were cutting hours. And, this led to, a drop in upsell, and later on a drop in sales. And we saw the same thing in the kitchen. So chefs were supposed to own a certain purchase cost percentage, while, there was no way for them to trace it back to recipes or stocking, none of that. So again, they used the only lever they could, and they started trimming portions. And, as you can imagine, the guest experience took a hit, and in some stores, even brands took a hit. And that's when we started bringing all of that data together, sales, labor, purchase. And we actually started right where they left off. We said, okay, if labor and purchase cost percentages are high because wages or F&B costs are high, this is most probably a centralized problem that you need to fix at HQ level. And you can do that by, switching suppliers, renegotiating contracts, rebalancing the mix of permanent and flexible staff, stuff like that. So then we created dashboards that help HQ to monitor all that. And then we figured out, if costs are high because scheduling and stocking are no longer in line with sales, then it's probably a decentralized problem that you need to look at which stores are over on their scheduling, stocking, and this is something you're going to have to solve at the store level.
Yep.
And that's when we understood that real transformation starts bottom up. This is also our philosophy. You'll see this all the way through our product and our method. And that's when we created dashboards that told operators exactly how many hours to schedule per shift, how much stock to order per delivery. And that's when we really saw this first customer of ours increase margins and scale with confidence consistently across locations. And that kind of, right now, if you ask me what's the passion, indeed, I think this is what gives meaning, like truly understanding what they need to do to transform.
So I've never shared this publicly, but I recently experienced it. And now, the more that we learn about business intelligence and what you guys are doing and how you're helping to simplify and clean the data, keep the foundation of how do we build, we need something clean to begin with. So recently I upgraded my iPhone. I got a new iPhone, and my wife has an iPhone. My children, I have an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. They use our old iPhones. But I recently went into the family section to start naming all of these Apple devices that we have, because we have earbuds and we have a watch and we have all of these things, but none of them were named correctly. They were all old. So if I look at the Find My iPhone, I have no idea which iPhone my son might have left behind if we were traveling, and All of those things made no sense. Foundationally, I had to go in to my Apple settings, to my family plan to learn how to go and about using Apple, which is, an iPhone, but multiple family plan. But if I add technology on top of technology, what am I going to get? I'm going to get something that makes no sense. So for me, I had to fundamentally go back to the source and go, I need to change the name of the iPhone to Mila's iPhone, Colleen's iPhone, Sean's iPhone, Rosie's iPhone. All of those things had to be foundationally correct for the data to make any sense for me to actually have any actionable action. And when I think about restaurants that are living on, some have no point of sale. They have an old register, which, that still exists.
That's not something we can work with.
You can't work with that.
The first,
you have to have an entry level, but from the companies that have legacy point of sales that are now switching to cloud-based point of sales, you're putting more and more data, but if it's not clean, if it doesn't talk to each other, then how do you get the insights that you need?
Wow. There's so much to unpack here. So you see this, what strikes me? You see this a lot with AI nowadays.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people are experimenting with AI. I think AI has come with great promise, demand forecasting, assisted scheduling, you name it. And many times, unfortunately, these projects fail. And many times that's not an AI problem, that's a data problem. Mm-hmm. And, as you said, if you feed technology or even AI incorrect or incomplete data, it will, optimize for the wrong outcomes. Mm-hmm. And that's why we see the forerunners do. And that's quite a large investment. You need to do this step by step, but they indeed start by bringing all their data together on one platform, making sure it's every single day, it's cleansed, it's validated, it's integrated. And from there on, you can, load it into your intelligence tooling. Where, again, as I mentioned before, I think it's very important to deliver the right information to the right people within your organization. Then you can feed it into other systems. So what still boggles my mind is that you have so many chains who kind of run parallel data infrastructure. So they have one for intelligence, and then they have one kind of automation for their finance, where they push their their hours and their purchases into their finance software. There's no need for that. You can do that from one engine. Mm-hmm. And then third, stuff like AI, and we see a lot of our customers experimenting with that, but they only do that because they can run their business and make a profit, and they have already achieved that level of consistency in operations because their foundation is right. So yeah.
How do you get the right data to the right person at the right time?
Yeah. Again, that's a very good question. So on one level, that's a technical problem. That's like a technical challenge, so to speak. And on the other one, it's a human one, because a big part of it is that, so a lot of people are working together in a store, for example, but they're not in sync. So what I mean by that, you have one store and you'd have one operator looking into the POS reports and reservations to look at how they can, for example, increase the average spend by optimizing upselling. And then a second person would dive into the scheduling software and try to figure out what the productivity, what the sales per labor hour are in order to optimize scheduling. And, even if this would be the same person, you're looking at, if you're trying to optimize productivity and that's high, the first thing you need to do is place that in the context of the average spend and say, hey, are we, we're cutting costs, but what is this doing to our sales? And then let's say they're both high and you have, high productivity, high average spend, and you want to have a look at like guest reviews and recurrency and see, are we optimizing margins while damaging the brand? Because, at the end of the day, it might be better to have a guest come back twice and spend $30 as opposed to coming in once and spending 40. So it's about looking at it holistically. And I think that's where it goes wrong now, because different people look at two different systems. And not only do they not have the full picture, they only look at their own function or role or surrounding, but they're also not in sync with each other, if that makes sense.
Can you share a story about when you realized you had product market fit, like a restaurant group that you worked with that started using YourBI and actually had a breakthrough?
Yeah, this is... that's a great question. So there are a few signals we got, realizing we had product market fit. One of them actually traces back to before somebody became a customer. So the process of them becoming a customer. And I think that says a lot about them. We were pitching YourBI. And within a few sessions, they realized, okay, this is what we need to scale our chain even further. But they had already invested in another tool. And what they then did is that despite that sunk cost, they went for it. And that speed of decision making. So this, by the way, is one of the largest chains in Amsterdam right now. They just had like 30 plus locations 1.5-2 years ago, and they started working with us, and now they're like hitting 50. Yeah, so that's really good. And you see that in their execution, like the way they're scaling, that's that speed of decision making. So that was for us, that was for us a sign that, people are getting it. And despite, obstacles, they're still doing it. And then I think an example of people using YourBI, we experience this a lot with franchise organizations. So you have a franchisor and they have certain interests, and then you have, and they're trying to communicate with their franchisees, but there's always this dynamic where, a franchisee will want to cut costs because, and that might damage, that might eat a little bit away at the brand because, because they're also thinking short term, right? It's a little bit of a conflict, so to speak, between the shorter and the longer term. And I think when we realized we had product market fit was when we actually were able to both help these franchisees increase margins and use our product. We help the franchisor expand, and we improved the communication between them. We made them understand each other. So this went a little bit further than just, delivering the right information. We kind of help these people with a new way of working together, and therefore scaling together in a sustainable way. and that was for me one of the first times that we thought, okay, this is not just tech. This is a whole way of working that we're implementing here. But that's no easy feat.
When I say the word dashboard, what do you think?
Honestly, a dashboard it's nothing. I mean, dashboards are, they're a way to visualize data and information. But they're a means. They're just part of a little means to an end. But I don't think dashboards are the answer. I think it really starts with, what are you trying to achieve as an organization? What are your goals? How can we translate that and make that operational for different people at different levels?
I would love to know, how do you guys think about that? Because audio, video, words, and images. We believe in omni-channel storytelling. Obviously, as a media company, we will write an article because someone might read this. Someone will listen to it as a podcast. Someone will watch it as a YouTube video. Someone with longer attention span will watch the whole thing. Someone with shorter attention span. In a restaurant organization, a hospitality organization, you have C-suite executives that are not on the store level. You have people that are on the store level. You have GMs. You have frontline workers, back of the house workers. Like, how do you take the truth, the data, which is coming, and how do you get it in a way that somebody is going to understand it, that needs it at the top, but then also it's not too much information for, somebody that might not need all of the finances that's at the store level?
Yeah. We start, apart from the content, we look at, who is this person? Like, how much data, how are they really used to working with data? That's one axis. And then how much engagement do they need with data in order to excel at their job or do their job? And then we see, for example, a dashboard would be a great way to visualize the answers to recurring business questions for people who want to look into a dashboard every morning, such as an operator.
Yep.
Now, let's say you have staff and you're working with specific upselling targets for specific guest segments, and you want to motivate your service, and you're doing this little contest of, what are sales tonight? What's upselling tonight? Then what really works is a mobile dashboard where everyone can keep track of their scores and their data. Then you have what we call people who want to be really engaged with the data and go really deep in it, and who are very familiar and literate with data. And for those people, we have, for example, the analyst workspace. And these would be data analysts, financial controllers, financial analysts who want to dive into all the data, for example, to answer new business questions that the executives or the board of directors would come up with. And then they need to track experiments, or is this new concept going well, stuff like that. So it really depends on the purpose. But what you want, no matter of all of these ways that you can share data and show data, I think it all needs to come from the same engine and the same platform. That's the most important thing, that everybody's looking at the same truth, but in a different way.
So one of the things that we deeply believe in the show is that the greatest technology companies and brands on earth, they don't build for us, they build with us. So as much as we believe in the tech and we believe in the product, we also really believe in the humans and the leadership. Can you share a little bit about how does YourBI do customer success? How are you guys obsessed with your customers? How are you building alongside of them?
Yeah, that's again a great question. So, okay, I'm gonna go a little bit against the grain here, maybe.
Please, I like it.
And
Challenge the thesis. I love it. Go.
we love our customers, and
Yep.
They have us on speed dial, and we like to go the extra mile, as every good company should. But at the same time, we are product led. So what we do in the industry is, it's pretty counterintuitive, because you're giving people who are extremely hospitable, you're trying to embed a new way of working with data.
It is hard to take care of hospitality. We as an ICP, as an ideal customer profile, hospitality professionals, restaurant people, we are hard to take care of because we spend our lives taking care of other people. Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes we would have a customer.
I'm saying that.
Or no, it's true. And eventually, it's for their own good. But sometimes we would have a big lead or a big opportunity or a big customer come to us and say, you need to do this and build this for me.
Yep.
And then what we try to do, and I think that's one of our strengths, we try to understand what's the need behind this ask. What do they really need? So let me give you a good example. Customers were saying, okay, we don't want to look at the average spend per ticket. We want to look at the average spend per guest. So why don't you show the guest numbers from my POS and then just calculate the average spend per guest? And then we realized that, we knew that if we did that, a lot of times that data is completely faulty, because people, at scale, they never fill in the right number of guests sometimes. And their
you're right.
login codes, they put
Are you telling me the servers aren't inputting the correct number of guests at a table? I've lived that for 18 years. Yeah.
Okay. So
it's a party of five, but somehow there's only one person on this guest check.
And the bigger problem with this, it's not a data issue it's not consistent, so you can never fix. And once it's there, it's gonna mess up like your average spend and all your historical data.
Problem. It's a human entry problem, right?
Indeed. So what we then did, and this kind of sparked the whole part of our product, which is called the personalization app, where we add business logic and goals and targets, and we basically customize the data. We enrich the data with extra logic. And what we did is we added a feature where we're now helping all of our full service customers translate tickets into guest types. So we would say, in the evening, if there are 2 main courses on a ticket, that means that's probably 2 guests. If you have a ticket with only drinks and maybe a charcuterie platter, these are probably people who are having some drinks at the bar on the terrace. So we're going to look at these tickets separately. We're not going to look at them per guest, but then per group. And again, this kind of goes into what you want, how you want these people to experience your concept. Because if you have a guest at, having dinner, you might want them to, to have a starter, to have a dessert, to get that extra drink. But if you're having a group of friends just having cocktails, you might just want them to, to have a platter or a snack or something. And that's when we started building in this logic. So the question was, why don't you just add the covers from my POS? Mm-hmm. But then we had to basically, develop an extra layer to our platform to kind of fix that for them in a sustainable way.
It's a great example. How do you look at artificial intelligence? We're recording this podcast. It's May. It's almost May 1st, end of April, 2026. You wrote on LinkedIn, the next 12 months will be transformational. We can finally be giving hospitality the margin multiplier it deserves.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we went full circle there. So because we have a robust data platform, we started building agents for our customers, and then we had indeed customers, like going back to your previous questions, coming in and say, but can they do this or can they do that? Mm-hmm. And now what we have, what we're actually doing is we are we're having an extra layer next to our analyst workspace that enables our customers, some of them, like our most data-driven customers, to be honest, at this moment, to build their own agents and their own AI apps and, chatbots on the data platform. Because we've come to realize that this is probably something that is going to be, to a certain degree, commoditized. And we want to, the same way we do that with a personalization app, we want to offer our customers a very tight backend, but a very flexible front end. And it's also a big differentiator for us. So we see now a lot of customers experimenting, for example, with taking our sales forecast and the suggested labor hours per shift, and then pushing that into their scheduling software, looking who's available, and then scheduling in those people. Or experimenting with stuff like, again, looking at like how much volume you need to order and going to your supplier platform, see if those ingredients are there. If not, independently order alternatives or stuff like that. Now, I must say, what we see, the whole infrastructure is not quite there yet. So it's hard to do this at scale, but we want to be the AI enabler for our customers. The data that helps them do all these things. And also meet them where they are, because let's not forget, I'm talking now about a very small fraction of our customers, and of the market. A lot of people are, as you said in the beginning, they still have a cash register, or they're still going from, legacy tech stack to cloud-based software. So there's a long way to go, and we want to deliver value fast. At all of these stages. Yeah.
Amazing. Tell us what you're looking for. What kind of restaurant groups, hospitality businesses are you looking to partner with in the United States as you guys are expanding over here as well? Who's the ideal customer? What do they look like?
Yeah, that's again a great question. So, if you're an independent restaurant, you have quite an overview of what's going on the floor. So you will not be needing us. We have customers with hundreds of locations, but we see that, it's a whole process to get a ship like that to turn and to deliver value. So I would say if you're between, anywhere between 10 plus to 70 plus locations, and you're scaling and you're running against limits, that's the spot where we can, and whether you're full service, or fast service or anything in between, that's the spot where we can really give you not just the data platform and the infrastructure, but also the way of working and the processes to get you there.
Amazing. Is there anything else we should learn? How can people reach out to YourBI? What's the best place? We'll put it all in the show notes, but if they want to get in touch.
Yeah. So the website, LinkedIn. I think that would be a great place to start.
And before I let you go, I need to go through one of my favorite segments, which is your personal tech stack. And that's Are you iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Uh,
iPhone.
which
Yeah.
version?
Oh God, I'm so bad at this. I think, yeah,
Nobody knows. It's okay. Don't
this
feel
is
bad.
so
No.
bad. I think it's not the latest, but the one right before that.
Why? When do you upgrade? What's your criteria for upgrading phones?
Oh shoot, I should have prepared this. So yeah, so what's my criteria for upgrading? Oh God, I'm one of those people, like camera and stuff like that.
Camera. When you see a camera that you want to use, okay,
Yeah.
that works. Do you prefer taking photos or videos?
Photos. I'm very old
Photos.
school. I'm a bird watcher. I go on hikes and then I take pictures of different birds and then I try to, see what type of,
Amazing.
species it is. Yeah.
Do you prefer phone calls or text messages?
Phone calls, definitely. I'm gonna think way too long when texting. Yeah.
Do you leave voicemails?
No, never.
No,
Well,
never.
when necessary. When necessary. But I'd rather just call back and hear someone in person. Yeah.
Perfect.
Especially in person. Yeah.
How many emails do you get a day?
That differs. Dozens. Sometimes, I don't know, 50 plus, I would say.
50 plus?
Yeah.
How many of those do you enjoy reading?
Honestly, all of them. Even when there's a crisis and we need to fix something, I know it's every time just brings you a step closer to a better version of yourself and YourBI. So, no, I never freak out.
Apple Maps or Google Maps?
Google Maps.
Google Maps. How do you listen to music?
I actually have, I flag. So I have per city. If there's New York, Paris, Amsterdam, I flag all the restaurants. So of course, all the customers, but also all the restaurants I want to go to. And so I'm a freak. I think I have
in Apple Maps?
of flags.
In Apple Maps or Google
No,
Maps?
in Google.
In Google. Okay. So you use Google for restaurant discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which AI tool are you using the most?
Claude.
Do
Yeah.
you use Gemini at all for discovery?
No, not a lot, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, there's this whole discussion where they're probably gonna be delivering the whole stack and there's the infra and all that. So we're not gonna get into that. So we are keeping that in mind, but at the moment it's Claude.
What is the first app that you open when you wake up?
God, you got so many of the, I haven't prepared for this question. I don't know.
No one talks about personal tech stacks, but we all use tech every single day. And we don't think about, to the data. We don't think well, I use Apple products and I use Google products and they all live in my Apple phone. It's we use Slack and we use all of these things every single day.
That's true. So I watch the news, my email, stuff like that. It's very practical. I'm a pretty practical girl
Pretty practical. Fair enough. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you. We are so grateful to have you on the show. YourBI, we'll put links into the show note. Alexandra, if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm weirdly available at Sean P. Walchef. We do weekly shows, Rising Tides Live. You can go to betheshow.media. You can join our live shows on Wednesdays and on Fridays. We travel all over the globe now. We're going to go to London this summer. We'll also be in Dublin filming content for Toast, our point of sale provider and storytelling partner. So we can't wait to do that. We'll also be telling some restaurant stories in Bulgaria and Greece. One day we'll get to Amsterdam. I promise you that. I know there's amazing restaurants in Amsterdam. We'd love to come tell those stories. But as always, guys,
we'll probably come to San Diego.
We can't wait to see you in San Diego, and obviously any of the major trade shows. We go to all of them, so we hope to see you there. Anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening. Alexandra, thank you so much. As always, guys, stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this long, you are part of the community. You're part of the tribe. We can't do this alone. We started, no one was listening. Now we have a community of digital hospitality leaders all over the globe. Please check out our new series called Restaurant Technology Substack. It's a Substack newsletter. It's free. It's some of our deep work on the best technology for restaurants. Also, go to YouTube and subscribe to Cali Barbecue Media. Cali BBQ Media on YouTube. We've been putting out a lot of new original content. Hopefully you guys like that content. If you want to work with us, go to betheshow.media. We show up all over the United States, some international countries. We would love to work with you and your growing brand on digital storytelling. You can reach out to me anytime at Sean P. Walchef on Instagram. I'm weirdly available. Stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to ask for help. We'll catch you next episode.